Hi there, my name is Eric Rousseau with the Comedy Film Festival. I am joined today with a number of different people, cast and crew from different films from our Bloody Funny block of shorts that's happening on Saturday, April 26th at 5:30 p.m. in Austin, Texas as part of the Comedy Film Festival. So to start things off, I'm going to start with Ro Moore from Undercover Wrestler. If you can just tell us a little bit about the project and yourself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Ro Moore. I'm the director producer of Undercover Wrestler. Basically, it's a WWE wrestling match that goes down in a diner over stolen French fries. So it's a lot of fun. It's got some nostalgia as far as like hitting those WWE slams, all that kind of stuff. It's great.
Awesome. It was one of the early films that got submitted that really stuck out. So we're really happy to have it at the fest. And as I think people are gonna be able to pick up on for this block. This is a really cool block that hence the name Bloody Funny. It is not only hilarious, but also we've got whether it's action, whether it's stunts, whether it's threatening in some kind of way, there's something a little bit bubbling under the surface. And for that, I'm actually going to throw it over to Stephen Haas, who I feel like this is right in line with I'm not supposed to be here, excuse me. Yeah, Stephen, tell us a little bit about the project.
It's just a short that I made, I don't remember, like 6 months ago or something. And yeah, it's just about working in an office and feeling a little frustrated, feeling like all your coworkers are not really, all there, I guess.
I think that in some ways there's a lot of relatability around the short, but also there's something very sinister going on in the background, and it's really not until the end where you're like, what should I actually believe for this world? So we're really thrilled to have it. Also, something sinister, David Reyes with Killer Falls. Tell us a little bit about the project.
Well, the goal was to make the shortest slasher film of all time. And so that was the goal. And so we did it in under 6 minutes. And, it could have been quicker than that but I have set up and then there's a song afterward. So it really takes like a minute to do. But the goal was, you see slashers and, what if he doesn't make it through his first kill? And so that's basically the premise of what happens. And so I always wanted to do a slasher film, but they freak me out. And so I haven't because, I just can't handle it. But we thought we could handle like a micro short of it. And so we did. And so we did it, shot it last summer, micro, ultra low budget, shot it in our front of our house, like for under $500. And there we go.
So speaking of kind of things coming together in a really quick way, I remember reading some of the cover letters, and one that stood out was Tim and Casey for Dicky Mack. If I remember correctly, y'all did a really complicated short film in within the span of 24 hours. There's a lot going on, just like what we're talking about, multiple layers. Tell us a little bit about Dicky Mack, The Right of Way.
Yeah, if you think that making one film in one day that lasts 16 hours is hard, well, no, it actually was like an incredibly difficult day. We did 16 hours, 3 locations, all in Los Angeles, kind of running, gunning. Casey put together an incredible script about this fascinating character that he knew as a child or as like a teen. And, if it wasn't for the team that we had, kind of like pulling all the strings and getting everybody together, I don't think it could have come off. So we were able to undertake something that was pretty ambitious for the amount of time and the amount of folks that we had. But we all come from kind of like a Chicago theater background world where everyone all pulls together and yes ands almost to a fault. So the people we asked, very few of them said no to anything. So we were very fortunate to have that. And then the script was hysterical, and Casey's performance is awesome. But yeah, I don't know that we knew exactly what we were getting into when we started that day.
Yeah, to piggyback on Tim, I think that if we had any clue what we what we had set before ourselves during the actual shoot day, we would have immediately changed um, some of the scheduling choices we made. But I think, yeah, to Tim's point, um, shout out to our DP and our gaffer, who we didn't know we're probably the outsiders that kind of came into our group, and they just embraced it so much that I don't know how we would have done it if it wasn't for their stamina and their energy, because it really was a marathon. Yeah.
It's really, I'm excited for everybody to see it, because it just is, it kind of similar to Rose's movie Undercover Wrestler. Things just kind of keep evolving. You think it's one thing and then it turns into something else. And I think that's actually a really perfect segue to our last film to highlight here, and that's Leverage. Michael and Alyssia, talk to us a little bit about Leverage.
Leverage is, I mean, I love comedies. That's the thing I love making. And I'm always looking for a different twist on it, right? And I really wanted to make action, not realizing how hard it was. It's the hardest. It was a 6-day shoot, big production. But as you can tell, I'm a huge fan of Shane Black. Love action and comedy and all of that together. So I called everyone up that I usually work with and said, hey, I mean, do you want to do action? Expecting everyone to be like, oh, no, you're crazy. Like, that's not going to happen. And everyone actually wanted to do it. And so I was stuck doing it. Lish, you want to talk a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, I when he originally had the idea of it, I wasn't part of the cast or crew. And then because you started with the idea before COVID.
Yes,
and COVID happened.
Our production.
Yeah. And so we had worked on a short together. And after that, I loved the way he ran his set. It was very organized. It was just straight to the point, no wasting time. And I loved that. And so we started talking about how I wanted to work with him and just to be as a producer. And so he had been talking about Leverage, and I originally just was going to come on as just a producer for it. And then it, casting happens. And so he's like, well, do you want to be in it? And okay. And I don't do stunts. I'm not a fighter. I'm not trained. I was trained in cheerleading. So that's the gist of my stunts. And so we did some fight training for it, and we shot it, and it was a blast. It was so much fun. So should it be a part 2? I don't know. Maybe a continuation.
And I mean, I think definitely cheerleading, absolutely transferable to Leverage, 100%. So we've introduced all of these amazing films that are part of this block. What I'm really curious to hear about is, we talked a little bit about where some of these came from, kind of the production side of it. Balancing that kind of the tone of these films, balancing, getting the comedy, into some of this. Let's start with throwing it back to Dicky, Mack, guys. How was that for y'all? You talked about Chicago roots and kind of that background. When you approached this, did you kind of know, okay, like, this is how we're going to balance everything? Casey, your performance, like, what was the approach to finding that balance?
This film was a lot of firsts for most of us. It was my first time producing and writing a short, and then also acting in it as well. And then it was Tim's first time leading as director. My co-producer Tyler, first time producing, and he also jumped on and became the first AD. A lot of firsts, and so we kind of we were learning as we went, and that kind of was the spirit of the film. We knew we were going to make mistakes. We just made a point to not take ourselves too seriously about it, because what we were embarking on was, like Tim said, incredibly ambitious and haphazard in a lot of ways. And so we were prepared for the bottom to fall out. And so I feel like that's a testament of the Chicago culture. Chicago is known for a lot of storefront theater, a lot of new work, a lot of, a lot of chutzpah, because it it takes that kind of mentality. And I apologize for all the noise right now. I'm at a Starbucks. Yeah, I don't know, Tim, if you could chime in with that.
Yeah, I think so much of that dictated the tone too, to your point. Like the character came in fully developed as part of kind of Casey's written script. Casey and Tyler have a understanding of each other's performance from literally performing together, going through theater, you know, MFAs, both of them, like terrifically talented actors who can inhabit a character with very little like coaching. So from that standpoint, managing the tone was relatively easy because the character existed, the work had already been done, and then it's just like, all right, let's just drive this guy, you know, like all the way through this story and kind of like watch it as it unfolds. So managing the action of it, the comedy of it was actually not that much of a stretch. It was mostly kind of just logistics, only because of how strong the script was and how strong kind of the character lived in each one of those folks.
And also to shine some light on Tim's amazing skills as well. I mean, Tim comes from a background of Second City, New York, Upright Citizen, UCB, Upright Citizens Brigade, and Tyler and I come from an improv background as well, and we had an improv duo, and so we were used to having no net with regards to how we were going to execute some things. We had a script, but we realized that, you know, there were going to be moments where we were going to be in a pinch, something might not work, and we had to rest on our laurels of coming up with stuff on the spot to you know, to get us through. And there were some things in the middle of the day where we're like, that line just doesn't work. We don't have time to rewrite anything. We need to just riff. And we could have had a better director who had years more experience of doing just that. So, you know, we were really grateful to find Tim.
So Stephen, kind of similar question. I think something that works so amazingly well with I'm Not Supposed to Be Here is the tone. And you often hear for comedy this idea of like winking or kind of playing into the joke, and there's no winking, and I'm Not Supposed to Be Here. Everyone is like deathly serious. It's such a dark comedy. It honestly, like, we knew early on, okay, this film is going to be part of the festival, but which block does it actually fit? And even though I think a lot of the other films that are a part here, as everyone else can imagine, they're a lot more in that kind of action thriller, even gory kind of vein. And yours just like, it was like, this is it. It has to be packed with these films. Talk about finding that balance, you know, what it was for everybody to have these ridiculous situations in this office environment, and kind of turning the idea of like an office comedy on its head a little bit as well.
I think a lot of that was the guy who acted in it, Chris Tranny, he's like a great comedian and an actor. And I kind of knew that he's like, he can act aloof in a way that I thought would work for the tone. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't really think it was that dark when I was writing it, and then the reactions, people seem to think it's pretty dark. But yeah, I think I don't know. I think for my comedy, I try to figure, like I think that people's reacting to what is happening is sort of helps to define the tone, and it's pretty serious, but no one really cares about it. So I think that gives it, that sort of dampens the seriousness a bit.
And you, if I remember correctly, you have a background in comedy and stand-up, is that right?
Yep. Yeah, everyone that was in it is a comedian in Chicago.
That's so awesome. That's awesome. So we've got a couple Chicago representations here, so that's really cool. So on the other side of office comedy, there's a little bit of that in Leverage. It kind of plays into the backstory a bit of what's going on. So talk to us a little bit about what's going on with Leverage, and how we, again, kind of take this idea of like, you know, these groups of characters and kind of turn it on its head in terms of comedy, in terms of action.
So from the very beginning with this film, I always wanted the comedy to be in the characters and the situations and not them telling jokes, right? One of the biggest laughs is Lish has a line in there that she just deadpans, and it kills, and it's not told as a joke, but you know, And so I really wanted to create these ridiculous characters, but also have the action be really good. Like my goal was people to walk in or walk out talking about how ridiculous this one guy was and his outfit and everything he did. But the fight scene, did you see when this happened, right? I wanted to do that and not have the comedy be funny, right? But in those villains, I've always loved this idea. The villains actually come from a feature script I have that's a different story, but I love those villains. And so I crafted them into this also. And I love this idea of the Russian mob, but like, it's kind of like an office, like, you know, it talks about benefits and things that they get. And you know, I love playing with that idea.
So while we're talking about villains, something that, and villains and backstory, I guess. So David, looking at Killer Falls, I'm so curious, especially, you know, you said you set out to make like the shortest slasher movie possible. So what did you all build out in terms of who these characters were, especially, you know, it's again something that kind of takes the idea of a slasher movie and there's a little bit of a turn at the last second. What was that for you in terms of building the story out?
Like with most of our films, it's based on the budget, and so we built our character, our killer, based off of what we had. So my son had a samurai sword, so that was that. And so I always thought that we had a little Japanese samurai mask that I always thought were really creepy, and I haven't seen enough use of that. So I wanted to incorporate that. So I had the sword, bought the mask, and kind of went from there. And so that was my killer. And like Michael's saying, there aren't funny lines. It's just this moment that's a twist and absurd kind of thing, and that's what we wanted that funny moment to be. And so we actually got to screen it once, and it's really amazing when you get to see, yes, it worked, because everything hinged on this one moment happening for the audience. Otherwise, it fails. And so we got to see it with an audience, and we saw that, and it was like, yes, okay, they got it. So it worked. And you don't know until you see it with an audience. You may think it's funny, but until you see the audience react like you want them and anticipate them doing, then you're kind of hoping and praying. So we got that.
Well, I'm really excited to see it in front of an audience, and in a lot of similar ways for Undercover Wrestler. I mean, you know, where this goes, where it starts, where it goes. You know, I feel like there's a lot of passion. You talked about kind of, and I think you even mentioned this here, but I think also and something that you wrote, cover letter for the film. You talked about kind of like this inspiration of WWE and this love of wrestling, building this out and kind of finding all the right people. You know, what was that process like for you? And, you know, kind of finding like where all the funny is going to hit in this really absurd kind of short film.
Yeah, I mean, because this is the interesting part is like Joseph, who plays Undercover Wrestler, he also wrote it. He has a huge love for WWE that goes back to like his dad and him reenacting things back when he was a trailer kid and everything. So when he brought it to me, I was like, dude, I love wrestling too. And it became this, how do we balance the tone between normal life and the larger than life ideal of what WWE is? Because you don't go to just see people get beat up when you go to WWE. You go for the pageantry. You go for this, oh my God, he's going to body slam him. So we were like, okay, where does that land? And how do we escalate each stunt to make it go even more ridiculous and have the audience go from, oh no, I'm on the Leonard side here where he's being beat up for no reason and this guy is crazy for being a wrestler, to where you want to be like, oh no, yeah, go wrestler. Who the hell is this Leonard guy? So a lot of that came because me and Joseph and Andrew, who connected us, our producer, we all went to Second City as well by way of Los Angeles, not the Chicago side. And we are all part of the Pack Theater. So that's where it all came from, improv and sketch and just developing it from there and really trying to play with this idea of the fish out of water where you can reverse it. And it's no longer the dude that you think is crazy. You are cheering for the dude that's been on the outside this whole time.
That's so cool. And it kind of feels like that also plays into the wrestling tropes of like the face and the heel and, you know, all the turns that those storyline take. So it's cool that you get to explore that in such a tight kind of time frame.
Yeah. And we got really lucky. So my friend Anne Westcott. She was the stunt coordinator. We had an all female stunt coordinating team. So that was even cooler that we got to have someone from World of Women of Wrestling to come in and kind of coordinate some things. So.
Very cool. And it's really awesome to hear, as I'm hearing everybody talk about like everyone's kind of evolution of comedy and, what the backgrounds are. Hearing a lot of, improv and sketch and, stand up. I think that's always awesome to see kind of, okay, maybe this is a starting place for this idea. And now it evolves into something where we're bringing everyone together. So something I'm really curious about for whoever it applies to here is the Texas connections. Because if I remember correctly, we have a number of different Texas connections. I'm going to start with Michael. I feel like you're kind of a little bit of an Austin legend when it comes to short film at this point. And then please feel free, anyone, to kind of chime in with your Texas connection.
I mean, I live here in Austin. I've been in Austin for almost 25 years. So making films for a good chunk of that, really focused on it the last, I guess, 8 years, making about a short a year and taking them to festivals and getting through stuff. But yeah, and Lish?
I'm a big advocate for going to film festivals. And so, I mean, that's how I met Michael. That's how I met David. I met them both at the Austin Revolution Film Festival. And I love at these film festivals, not only do you get to watch their work in person and they get to watch your work, you get to have some time to actually talk to them and get to know them. And is this someone I want to work with? And and so I always tell everyone that's into acting, hey, if you want your next gig, go to film festivals, meet people, go out there. Networking is the tool. And you see some badass films and you become fans of people. And so once I see somebody's film, I'm like, you got me locked in. I'm going to watch everything you make. From here on out.
And we got lucky because Joseph is from Austin, born and bred. So love that. And then our Jesse Greer, who's from Houston, plays the referee. So we've got two connections.
We love to hear that. That's kind of one of the cool things about this festival is, we love to represent, the town that we're based in, the state that we're based in, but it's also cool when it just so happens that we have a little bit of a homecoming as well. So we're really thrilled when that occurs as well. And Casey, if I remember correctly, you're going to be coming to the festival as well, correct?
Tim and I will both be there. We were hoping my co-actor Noah, who plays Gus in the film, told us the other day he's not going to be able to make it, so he'll be there in spirit, as well as Tyler. He'll be in St. Louis and can't make it, but Tim and I will surely be there partying with you all.
Yeah, so it'll be a slight, not homecoming per se, but as a performer back when I was living in Chicago, I did Austin Sketch Fest a couple of times, and it was an absolute blast. So I've always had a nice time down there in Texas, and Austin is it's near and dear to my heart. That might have been 2012 though, so it was a million years ago. So I'm looking forward to getting back.
Yeah, it'll be my first time in Austin, so I'm super thrilled because I've always wanted to go, but this is a very good reason to finally make the trip.
I'm an Austin filmmaker and everything. We've done 5 features. This is actually my second short kind of thing. So normally I do features and everything, but this is our first film that's really not Austin as a character. Does not have Austin as a character because I always include that, and so this is our first one where actually we're trying to be location non-specific. So, but yeah, normally Austin is a big part of my film.
Absolutely, David. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been, I mean, you're kind of right there with Michael, seeing so much that y'all have done over the years for Austin and Texas film. And we're so thrilled to be able to feature you both. It's just, I feel like this is only our festival's second year. And yet, this year is, I think, the first year, definitely more than last year, we're really able to tap into some of the local talent. And obviously, as we're hearing, some people who have Texas ties. Tim, I was going to mention that Austin Sketch Fest is run by our friends at Cold Town Theater, who are one of our sponsors and partners. So it's a nice little tie-in right there.
It'll be a fun return. I remember all those spaces very fondly. We had some fun stories.
There you go. Well, as we round things out here, one thing that I have for really everybody is, so it's kind of a two-parter here, is, these ideas and short films, a lot of times they are the jumping off point for something bigger, whether it is just the concept and the team that you work with, or building off of this to like a feature, or trying to like put together a pilot presentation, or maybe you take a completely different route and you say, this was great, it's its own self-contained thing, and you'll just start focusing on the next thing. So that's really my question. Let's start with Steven. This film here, I'm not supposed to be here. Where does this stand? Is it a self-contained thing? Is it like, something that you take and you see what you can make from here, or are you just kind of focused on the next thing?
I think it's kind of self-contained. I don't know. This is the first film festival I've done. I've only ever done social media stuff, and I feel like social media moves so fast that like, it's just like on to the next thing. But it would be cool if it could be expanded into something, but I don't know. I've kind of moved on to other stuff, but I'm really proud of this project.
Yeah, as you should be. It's really cool. It's really awesome. What about Dicky Mack? Because this feels like a project that, and especially Casey, like your character, it just feels I think it's really easy to like put it next to something like a Danny McBride type character, just something that's really like iconic from the look and the speech and the mannerisms. Like, what do you feel is next for this character in this story?
Casey kept trying to drive Dicky Mack into a ravine and kill the character, but I have plans. There's going to be a stage musical. There's going to be no, I'm kidding. Casey, take it.
Yeah, thank God that Tim's there to save me from my really destructive habits. Yeah, no, I originally was writing it as a episodic, like a web series, short form, 2 to 3 minute episodes, and eventually we combined a lot of that into the short that you'll see at the festival. But yeah, in my mind, it has a future as an episodic in some form. And Danny McBride and the Rough House boys, Jody Hill, David Gordon Green, all those were huge references. I was watching them cramming, rewatching Vice Principals, and even down to choosing the LUT and the color for the film as well. When we were working on the color and post, I was like, everything needs to be bright, like it is in the South. When I see Danny depict, the South and his shows, that's the energy that I want, the color that I want. And I'm from South Carolina, and the Dicky is based off of a real driving instructor that I had from South Carolina. And so I feel like those the Rough House, that do Gemstones and they do Vice Principals, and they capture that so well, and it was such an immediate reference for me, and so I naturally wanted to continue writing Dicky in sort of like a half-hour comedy, single camera world. That's how I best see it, and I got a lot of inspiration. I did as an actor out here, I did an episode on a show that called Tacoma FD, and that was my first time ever working as an actor on a short half-hour type show, and I saw how much fun those guys had. They had a very I feel like Dick is probably not as simple as Tacoma FD. Tacoma FD is very simple. It's just a bunch of guys in a firehouse, just being ridiculous, but they were able to generate so much material off of a script, and I wanted to create something to where the characters were so well shaped and formed that we could just continue to make stuff with a tight group of people. So that was kind of the impetus behind it, was to have a very simple relationship and enough room to imagine, and leave that door for crazy, experimental, fantastical things open to continue, generating stuff, So, yeah.
So, Ro, with Undercover Wrestler, what do we think? Is this the start of like an ongoing kind of bit, or are we gonna see other undercover type people in strange situations? What do you and Joseph think that the next turn is?
Yeah, we've started based off of the response from the film festival circuit, and the audience is loving what we're doing. It is going to be turning into a feature film, maybe 5 years from now, but hey, we'll see. Because stunts are expensive, yo. So yeah, but we do want to expand the character. We've kind of drawn out his storyline as he's had an amnesia bit where he got hit in the head, and so therefore he was previously a cop, but now because of the amnesia, he's become this wrestler, and he thinks that's how you protect the public. And you have to go after these small injustices, because if you don't, then it grows into bigger things. So we are very much exploring that storyline and seeing where it can go.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that. It's such a fun bit, and I think that it also, the world that you end up setting up, like you don't know that that's what it's going to be at the beginning, but where you end up, it really feels like it opens the door to all of those kind of possibilities that you're talking about.
For sure.
So David, we know that this is kind of the micro short. How can we do this comedic slasher in such a quick kind of turnaround time? What's the next thing for you? Do you want to kind of continue these ideas of micro shorts, or you on to something completely different now?
Yeah, this thing's put to bed. We're moving on to the next project. I'm already got the bones, all written out and everything. So I'm actually going to start writing the script next week or so. It's called Letty and Jack Want Out. It's about two people from two different worlds who are in bad situations in their own world, and they meet and they help each other get out. It's a comedy. It's the first full-blown comedy that I'm attempting, because everything I've done is reality-based kind of thing with funny moments. But this is the one where I'm diving straight in. So I think Killer Falls just made me get over my fear, with horror films and everything. So that was one hurdle I got over. So now I'm going full bore into comedy, and so that's what Letty and Jack is all about. It is a straight out comedy, and from the get go. So that's where we're going to next, and it'll be a feature, hopefully to begin. I write it this year, begin production in 26, and then move on from there.
Well, I can't wait to see what ends up happening with that. That's really exciting. So to round things out here, Michael and Alyssia, Leverage, there's so much there. Michael, you also mentioned that you've been churning out about a short a year. I feel like, if I remember correctly, this is maybe about the last stop for Leverage, and I think I've already seen that you've kind of started to have your next short in festivals. Is that right?
Yeah, we have. So Leverage was shot over 6 days over the course of 3 months. And we actually, it was 2 years ago that we did the first 2 days this past week. So we shot another film called The Time Capsule last summer. And we were actually, by the time people see this, it'll already be done. We're launching on Monday a crowdfunding campaign for another short called It's Hard Not to Be Romantic About Time Travel. But Leverage, as I said earlier, Leverage is, the villains are from a feature script that I have. It's also a comedy. Those same villain characters are so much fun. I just wanted to bring them into this. The story of Leverage was a one-off. There's
also another feature that he has too that we've been playing around with as well. Yeah. So we're trying to mix him out.
Launch a feature next year is the goal. Do another short in end of May, and then shoot early next year for a feature.
That's really cool. Well, I really am appreciative of everybody here and everybody sharing their work with us. Again, all of these films you can see on April 26th as part of the Bloody Funny Shorts block at the Comedy Film Festival. Come check it out. A lot of the people who are here are also going to be there in person, and you can talk to them more, ask them questions after you actually watch their film. And again, thank you all. This is really fantastic. We're so thrilled. This is honestly one of the blocks I'm most excited about. It just is, there's so much fun stuff there. And who doesn't, love a comedy that also knows how to get its hands dirty. So thank you all. We'll see you in Austin, and have a great rest of the day.